Gavin Ben Jacobs at the top of this hour, talking about Sesko and Gyokeres, both players that Arsenal are interested in. Both would, as Ben reported, cost in the region of £70 million each. Who do you want, Perry, and do Arsenal get this done?
Well, I said last week when it was Sesko who looked like that was the road that Arsenal were going down, I said I'd prefer Gyokeres, and it looks like it's sort of swung, the pendulum swung back towards Gyokeres. There's a lot of political stuff going on with Gyokeres and the president of Sport in Lisbon, because they're saying that obviously there's a gentleman's agreement that they won't ask for the release clause, and they mentioned like 50 million with add-ons. Now, if you're Gyokeres, right, I get it. If you sat in a room and the president and sport director said, look, give us one more season and we'll let you go for a cheaper price. And it's not as if he just plucked the 50 million out of the air. Do you know what I mean? That must have been mentioned somewhere.
Sure.
And all of a sudden they go back on it and they renege it. If you're Gyokeres, quite rightly, you would get the raving ump because you've given them another season. You've kept your part of the bargain.
Gentleman's agreement, isn't it?
Yeah, and then they've moved the goalposts. See what I did there? Mm-hmm. So I think it's been reported that Arsenal offered, I think it was 50 million, then they went back with 60 million, and then it's hit a bit of a sort of a wall. So then you have to have a plan B and a plan C. So Sesko is probably the plan B.
And plan C?
Ollie Watkins, it looks like that he's like come back to the fore. Out of the three, if you look, I said with Gyokeres is 27, right? And people say, oh, I'm not bothered about selling. You don't, when you're going for the big clubs, it's not sell-on fees. He's learnt his trade. He's 27. That is the perfect age because you're maturing physically. You've got all the knowledge and the nous and know-how that you've learnt. And if you look at Gyokeres compared to Sesko, he's 5 years more developed than what Sesko is. So Sesko is 22, and it's the risk to reward. So if you're going to pay, you know, if I was Arsenal, I'd be going, right, let's get this done. Transfer window opens tomorrow. Prove to the player how much you want him. If it's 70 million, pay the 70 million. Do you know what I mean? We've been in this situation before where we haven't gone and paid money. It gives the right impression that you want that player badly. We had it with, I think Suarez had a release contract, didn't he?
The
40 million.
bid.
And Arsene Wenger got stick, but it wasn't him who actually made that bid. He said that's disrespectful to the player because you're not saying to the player how much you want him. You should bid, if his release clause is 40 million, bid 50. Because it shows the player how much you want him to come to your club. So again, I've got a dog in the fight. I'd be playing, pay the money, pay the extra 10 million quid or 15 million quid to get him over the line, because I think him proving that he scored goals for Coventry City, the last two seasons there, 17 goals and 21 goals in the Championship. And the Championship is more physical than what the Premier League is. Sure. So it's the risk, to reward, and that's a lesser risk of all the players that I've mentioned there. He scored 97 goals in 102 games for Sport in his last two seasons.
Pretty good numbers, aren't they? Yeah.
Which is unbelievable numbers.
Feels like you're going to be asked this question a lot, Perry, on this show and other TalkSport shows in the next season. But if Arsenal do get one of the two, let's say it is Gyokeres, and I hope it is because he'd be a great addition to the Premier League. Is this the year where it now feels like with Mikel Arteta, it's a must? He must go and get that big trophy.
And he knows himself. He said he dreamt about winning the big trophies, coming second 3 times. The first 2 times, you sort of get it because Man City were that good. And if it wasn't for us, we pushed Man City. We made it even more interesting right to the last game of the season. Everybody's saying Man City won the best Premier League teams you've seen. We should have benefited from their drop-off last season, which was a season later I thought it would be. No one saw Liverpool being as good and as competitive what they are. Both teams, Liverpool and Arsenal, lost 4 games each. We just drew. We had more draws than an IKEA store. Do you know what I mean?
And that's a lot of draws.
You've got to stop those draws. But with the centre forward comes in, I still think we need a left winger. Now, whether that's Nico Williams or Rodrigo, whatever, because you need a step up from Martinelli and Trossard, then it takes some of the heat away from Bukayo Saka on the right-hand side. Zubimendi, hopefully he'll come in because he's the perfect player to play at the base of the midfield, where he's a brilliant lender and he keeps the tempo. You watch him play for Spain, he keeps the tempo of the game just tipping over. He's like Jorginho, but he's miles more mobile than what Jorginho is. So, and Arteta knows that we have to win the Premier League or the Champions League this season. It's a non-negotiable.
He knows. If he doesn't, he's done.
I don't know how far, because if you're competitive and you get, to the end of the season. But I think we have to be in the top 2 after the first 10 to 15 games and within striking distance, because not just
Arsenal, Gyokeres, Man United snubbed. Liverpool, Ekitike, Chelsea, Ekitike, Manchester United, Ekitike. It's all about the strikers this morning and a few other bits as well. But let's delve into this, because sometimes the transfer window can just hit a saga where you just don't understand what's happening. So last night, basically, Fabrizio Romano and others coming out saying that Gyokeres was prioritising a move to Arsenal, which would lead you to believe that a bid from Arsenal is about to come in and he's going to be holding up an Arsenal shirt. And then this morning, we get reports from Portugal again saying that Arsenal have stopped this deal. They don't want to pay that money and they're more focused on Sesko. So what's actually going on? Arsenal fans, who are you going to get? Who do you want? We've spoken about it on the United stand. From the United perspective, I still think he could sign for United, but then United are now in talks with Ekitike, where Chelsea and Liverpool have been for a while. Let's talk about that. But first of all, Gyokeres, Arsenal. I mean, look, I think he'd be brilliant there. I really do. But I don't actually think Arsenal are in for him in an advanced way. I think Arsenal, with Berta as their director of football, as Ben Jacobs said a couple of weeks ago, the way he likes to construct things is line things up, do all the work on a couple of options and then move on one of them. It's old school, it's old-fashioned, but it's effective because the club has the power. We want a striker. We're Arsenal. We think we can win the Premier League. We think we can compete for the Champions League. The missing piece is a striker. We're not going to go all in on option 1. We're going to put up 2 options and we're going to get the deals ready, and then we're going to opt for the one that's best for the club. And I think with Sesko and Leipzig being a little bit too expensive at the moment and Gyokeres maybe being a little bit cheaper, maybe they've been focusing on that Gyokeres deal, seeing what can be done. Maybe they'd even put a bid in just to see, what Sporting would accept and see if that would bring Leipzig down. Maybe that's what they'll do. But Arsenal playing a very, very intelligent game. Not so much so the agent of Gyokeres or whoever's put it out there that he wants to join Arsenal, because that actually makes Sesko look a little bit classier. A little bit like, well, I'm not getting involved in that. I'm just going to see what happens with this. Whereas Gyokeres looks a bit desperate now. I want Arsenal. I don't want anyone else. But Arsenal might not want you. And then you're going to look foolish.